Awesome. Well, good morning, everyone. I see that we have people trickling in. You're welcome for having a little bit of BTS. See how we get this thing moving behind the scenes. Good morning. Good morning. We do have a question up on the slide that we love for you all to participate in with us this morning. Share in the chat a favorite winter activity from school or home. And then I'm going to pull up the chat and see what we got in here. Share in the chat a favorite winter activity from school or home. And if you want to just say anything else that's on your mind, feel free to check in, say hi, make sure your voice isn't scratchy, make sure everything is moving and functioning the way it's supposed to this morning. We're looking forward to a fun, full day. So let's see it. Extra credit for folks who put in something that's new, because I'm always looking for different ways to enjoy winter, even though I've been here my whole life. My relationship is still growing with Wisconsin winter. We were good when I was young, and now it's like a little shaky since I have to function in it. Baking Christmas cookies, love that. Light shows, absolutely. Watching Elf and drinking hot chocolate. Has anybody tried any of the drive-in movies lately? I know that was like a big thing during COVID. Like you could go watch like a movie all together, tune into like a radio station for the audio of the movie, and then like watch it in your car. It's pretty cool. I think there were a couple different schools that did that as like an easy kind of school activity during COVID. Knitting and sledding. Wow, that's talent. Knitting and sledding. I would love to see that happen actively, like at the same time. Reading with Coco and a blanket. Ice fishing at the cabin, nice. Let's see. Okay, lots for lights displays and sledding. And like our sleds still a thing, like real sleds, like the ones that you see, like the wooden ones with the little curved up like feet, or are we talking like tubes? Like I'm wondering what's within the realm, what counts as like sledding? Or there's just like those plastic things that are like always on sale around this time, a little bit before this time. Picking out a tree. I saw the tree for City Hall, I think get harvested the other day on social media. Listening to music, I'm going to ask, are there favorite songs that people listen to? And how early can you start listening to like holiday music? Because I'm starting to hear it. I'm starting to hear it. And I think I don't want to be tired of Mariah Carey this year, but I mean, it's getting close already. And we're not even like close yet. Are there any favorite holiday songs though? Writing letters to Santa and taking them to the mailbox in Milwaukee and walking around the lights. I love that. There's always a really cool light display, like in Cathedral Square, like with all of the trees that are decorated by different Milwaukee public schools. So that's always fun to see. Ooh, a large plastic sled, pile all the kids in together, and then just leave them down at the bottom of the hill and and go knit in the cabin. What else do y'all do for holidays? Oh, I see a note here that some don't celebrate Christmas. I personally don't celebrate Christmas either, but I love I still really, really love looking at the lights and all of that. I enjoy seeing people happy. I know that it brings a lot of joy to people, and I love that. But yeah, I had never celebrated Christmas. Cool. Any other really fun activities that folks do in the winter? Grinchmas Day. That's hilarious. Green food all day long. So do you make food green, or is it just like celery and broccoli and lima beans? Nice. Okay, cool. That's awesome. Cool, cool. Well, thank you all for participating and saying hi and checking in. We'll move to the agenda today. So at 8:50 in just a little bit, we'll have a building connections activity, or maybe a little bit sooner, if we have some time to jump into it. We will be pausing to connect the dots, which I'm excited about. We always have to remember that while we kind of use 11 principles as our leading framework, we just heard from Marvin and learned more about the primed model. So we want to make sure that these things make sense to you, that the things that we're discussing don't feel kind of like separate, but that you can really connect them and anchor them in methods that work for you. We'll have a break around 10 o'clock, so you can prepare for that, and then jump back into the keys to leading schools of character. Mark is going to be leading a lot of what we have going on today, and that will take us all the way up until lunch, which will be from noon to 1. And then we'll get into our breakout groups that we were in last time. And then we'll end the day with team reflection and work time. So that's the agenda for the day. Make sure you take note of when we will be at those breaks. Now you have a chance to go ahead and label your team numbers, your name and team numbers, and we'll take a second to do that. And the team numbers will also be accompanied by letters as we prepare for breakouts later. So just get ready for those instructions as well a little bit later. Cool. I'm seeing most of the numbers pop up, so I think we're probably okay with that. I see some shout outs. I like that. Good morning, Team Alverno, in the chat. I love team spirit, so that just makes me smile. Group norms, the same ones that we've had. Be present, be flexible, be supportive, be in action, and trust. I'll pause for a second just to let everybody read that at their own pace and process and internalize that in their own way. And as we're doing that, I always invite this group to drop in the chat maybe something that they want to work on or push themselves on for personal accountability for today, because I know these days can be long, especially when we're back in Zoom. So if there is something that you want to particularly step out and be in action about, feel free to drop that in the chat. Awesome. And then a few notes on Zoom etiquette. Participate as fully as you're able to. Turn on the video whenever requested to enhance communication, or as much as you're able. Use the chat feature to alert the group of needs or ideas to remember. We do have some of our coaching staff that's going to be monitoring the chat. Take care of yourself. Utilize mini breaks. That's kind of like an opportunity for you to stand in responsibility for the experience that you're having. I think beyond kind of like the physical take care of yourself, there's also like the mental take care of yourself. This is time that you're giving to develop yourself and invest in yourself. So I really hope that you all take advantage of it by making sure that you're able to be present. And then don't forget to mute your mic or stop your video if you step away.
Awesome. Thanks, Lauren.
Yep.
All right. Before we jump into the relationship building, I think one thing that we we forgot to do last month is we know that we had some new participants. And if you are willing to share and introduce yourself, if you are new from last month or this month, just come off of the mute and share with us your name, the school organization you're with, and what you do at the school organization. So do we have any new participants from either this past month in November or joining us now in December?
I was new last month. My name is Zach Kajowski. I'm at St. Francis and I teach chem and bio there at the high school. So
Awesome. Welcome.
I'll come off mute. Mark, hi, everybody. I'm Ronette Jacobs, and I am actually part of this team for LACCS, and I'm also Alverno, and EBA. So yeah, I'm here today, and I will be here for the remainder of the year.
Thank you, Ronette. Zach, you got some sweet flow, by the way. I'm just super jealous. If you follow any Minnesota hockey up in our neck of the woods, they have an all hair team for their hockey for the kids that participate in the state tournament. It's pretty awesome. So, other people joining us? All right. So for this morning's relationship building, what I want to do is I want to share a resource with you from Character Strong. And I've used these with our staff, but they're actually geared towards our middle school students. We were fortunate enough to use some of our ESSER funds to pay for the upfront cost of Character Strong. We're using it at one of our elementary schools, at our middle school, and at our high school. And one of the things we're finding is our students really love these relationship building activities that really helps increase connectedness and engagement with our students. But I've also used it at faculty meetings and team meetings. Even though they're geared towards middle school students, as adults, we've had some fun with it. So I'm gonna exit out of here. And what we're gonna do is I'm gonna randomly call on one person. The game that we're gonna play is called 7 Categories. So I'm gonna click on that. I'm gonna call on one person to participate. And then once that person, you can pass if you're not feeling it this morning, that's perfectly fine. But then if you choose to go, you get to pick the next person, and you can pick one of the coaches to respond. You can pick somebody from your own school organization, or you can pick somebody from another school organization. So I'm gonna start with St. Croix Prep, and Rita Thorson. Can you pick a category if you're willing to participate? Just shout out one of these categories, Rita.
Okay, thanks, Mark. Good
Yeah, you're
morning.
welcome.
Let's do All About Me.
All about Rita. All right, pick a number.
3.
What is the bravest thing you've ever done, and why was it brave? It's a tough one.
Am I supposed to answer this, or do I get to pass it to
No,
somebody?
you get to answer it,
What?
or
I thought I just chose the category.
or we can pick another number.
I feel like this is pretty deep to start the day.
It is. We can pick another question.
I can do it,
All right, let's hear it.
but I don't know. I mean,
I can do it, but I don't know.
okay.
Come on, Rita, you got it.
All right. Thank you for the encouragement. Bravest, I think this is a little tricky, but I think the bravest thing I've ever done, I transferred when I was in college, my junior to senior year. I played basketball. There's a lot of stuff around that, but my coach was forced to resign, and I was really mad about it. And I felt like the only thing I could do was choose to go somewhere else and play for someone that I wanted to play for. and it was really hard, and I ended up spending another semester in school. So it wasn't great, but if I had to do it over again, I would absolutely do it over again, because at my core, I feel like my trait that's most important to me is loyalty. And so it was part of who I am and holding true to who I am. So it was also brave because it was really hard, because I was pretty set and had a lot of things in place, but it just felt like the right thing to do. There you go.
Awesome. Thanks for opening up and sharing that, Rita. And you got to graduate as a blue gold. So that's a bonus too. All right. You get to pick somebody to go next. So you can look on your screen and just randomly pick somebody, and then they get to pick the next category.
I feel like the hair is the thing of the day, so I'm picking Zach.
All right, Zach. Zach, you get to pick a category.
I'll pick this or that.
This or that. All right, pick a number.
Give me 5.
5. Teacher for a day or principal for a day, and why?
Well, I'm already a teacher every day, so I'll have to pick principal. Just new experience, check it out, see what it's all about. What are they doing over there in their office? So I'm curious.
I always joke that I'm either playing, when my door is shut, I'm either playing Tetris or taking a nap. So it's kind of the
One or the other.
Yeah. So, all right, Zach, thank you. Do you want to pick somebody?
Of course. I'll pick future.
Future, pick a category.
Future.
Ooh, let's learn.
Let's learn. I don't know if I've done this one. Oops. Hold on, let me back up. Let's learn. All right, pick a number.
7.
7, lucky number 7. I don't know if you can do this one or not. Let's skip this one. Unless you can answer this one. Are you in class right now?
No,
Class? All right,
No.
let's skip it. Oh, do you have an answer for it?
I was gonna date back to when I was a kid, right?
All right, do it. Do it. What
Okay.
class did you look forward to when you're younger?
Okay,
Why?
I'll go to college. I'll go to college.
Okay.
But you could go to younger too, right? I think when anybody's picking this. In college, I really looked forward to my speech communications class because it was constantly talking and debating. And that's something I love to do. So I loved going there every day.
That's great. I love
Now
it.
I get to pick, do
You
I
get-
pass it?
You get to pick somebody else now. They get to pick the next category.
Okay, I'm gonna pick somebody that's not on screen.
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh, here I come. All right, Gloria. Gloria, are you there? Okay, there you are.
All right, Gloria, you pick a category.
How about my day?
My day. All right, pick a number.
3.
What is your favorite time of day and why?
Ooh, this is an easy one, I think. So I have split roles at Eastbrook Academy. And so on every other day for the afternoon, I get to be back in the classroom. So my favorite time of day is that transition when I get to take off one hat and I get to set up the classroom and welcome kids back into the day. That really fills me with a lot of joy.
That's awesome.
And thank you. I get to pick someone.
You get to pick somebody now.
Rachel Down, you're up.
All right, Rachel. Pick a category.
Sorry, we have a multiple computer situation
Okay, gotcha.
going on. It took me a second. If only. I don't think anyone's done that yet.
If only. All right, pick a number.
6.
6. If you could talk to animals for 5 minutes, what would you ask them and what would you want to tell them?
Okay. Great question. Excellent choice here, Dr. Strong. Maybe I would pick to talk to all animals that live underwater, and I would ask them if they get cold. I genuinely wonder that, and also if they want to come on land. And I would also want to tell them, I don't know, that I was jealous. I went scuba diving once and it was so fun. So maybe I just want to tell them they should keep doing what they're doing. I don't know.
I asked them how they sleep.
Oh, yes. And Liz says she wants to know how they sleep.
Oh, that's a really good question. Yeah, that's a good one. All right.
Thank
get to
you.
pick somebody now.
Okay. Let me look at I'm gonna pick Colin Jacobs.
All right, let's go with my favorite.
My favorite. All right, pick a number, Colin.
4.
4. What's your favorite tradition or celebration from your culture, family, and why?
Ooh. Oh, Ronette could jump in on this one and she could share some fun feedback on family traditions. Let's see. Since it is the holiday season, we have a family ongoing tradition of having excuse time. When you have gifts for people that are totally off their list, off script, maybe hit or miss, and as you deliver the gift, you have to let them know it is excuse time, just to prepare them that they're going to get something they have no idea what they're in store for.
Ronette, do you want to add to that?
No.
All right, Colin, go ahead and pick somebody. We'll do a
All
couple.
right, I am going over to Rachel Poppenfuss.
All right, Rachel, pick a category.
Let's do my day.
Your day. Pick a number.
Number 2.
2. What do you do if you have trouble falling asleep at night? And why does that help you fall asleep?
Oh man, I do not have any trouble falling asleep at night. I have 2 boys at home and I'm also like halfway through pregnant with the 3rd. So that's not a problem at all by the time I get home. But if it does happen, the one thing I'll do is just turn on Netflix, have something mindless going on in the background to help me fall asleep when that does happen.
Rachel, how old are your first 2 kids?
I've got a 4-year-old and then a 1.5-year-old.
Okay.
Yep. Yes.
All right. We'll do 2 more. Pick somebody pick a category.
Let's go to Katie.
Katie. All right, Katie, pick a category.
My favorite.
My favorite. All right, pick a number.
1.
What is your favorite day of the week and why?
My favorite day of the week is Saturday because I get to sleep in.
It's a great answer. We had our boys were back from college, and man, they can sleep. They stay up late and they get up late. So sleeping in is awesome. All right, last one. You get to pick the last person, Katie.
Aaron Donnelly.
Aaron. All right, Aaron.
Okay, let's go with this or that.
This or that. All right, pick a number.
2.
2. Salty or sweet and why?
Sweet all the way.
That was sweet. That was nice and short. That was good. All right. Well, thanks for participating, everyone. This is, again, we've had a lot of fun with this at our school. We probably spend too much time on this, and sometimes we don't necessarily get to the lesson, but it definitely helps us get to know our kids and help them feel connected at school. I think Woodlands, you're using this as well. I think I don't know if anybody from Woodlands can come off mute, but I believe you've been using it this year. Is that accurate?
Sorry, Mark, yes.
Okay. Awesome. Are you using this? Are your kids enjoying I'm assuming the elementary has similar activities, relational activities at the elementary level? Anybody from Woodlands want to respond to that? Do they have, yeah, go ahead.
No, Liz from Woodlands. No, the kids are using it, and I got a whole bunch of teachers in the room, and we're kind of going through. It's our first year using it, so we're actually just kind of going logical in the order.
Yeah.
But I just said we should use this at the next staff meeting when LACCS presents. So just kind of fun. I think they're easy to use. I look at everybody, and I think kids have liked them. So that's our input.
Awesome. Thank you. All right. Before we jump into this, it's been kind of a crazy week here at in Meyer Middle School. We had our first snow day. Actually, we had 2-hour early release, and our kids were just wound up at lunchtime because they found out just before lunch that they're going home. But I don't know if you get a chance, if you look at, we have a snow day calendar or calculator, and so our kids are constantly looking at that. And I don't think I help matters when I go into teams or into classrooms and ask, well, what's the snow day calendar? I'm like a big kid. I love snow days more than anybody. So I'm looking outside right now. We had about 6 inches of snow on Monday. And so it's definitely winter wonderland here. All right. Next, what I want to do is, Lauren mentioned, we last month had Dr. Berkowitz share with us the PRIME framework. And the primary framework, as Lauren mentioned, that we work off of is the 11 principles framework. And what we want to do this morning is, first, I want to share with you just real briefly the genesis of the PRIME framework and where it came from. And then the second thing is we want you to become more familiar with both frameworks. But I also want to make sure we're connecting those dots so you understand the similarities and where there's overlap between the PRIME framework and the 11 principles framework. And then the third objective for this morning, this will take us up until 10. And if we get done early, that's fine. We'll take a little bit longer break. But what we want to do is, when I go to workshops, I love walking away from workshops with a resource, something that I don't have to invent myself, or a couple of ideas. And so this is the part I'm most excited about is you get an opportunity to share some resources with the rest of the teams participating today. So those are the three main objectives. I'm going to just jump in and start off by sharing where this the PRIME framework came from. So Dr. Berkowitz took a look at, did an analysis of and a review of 8 different studies about around the effective character education practices. And what they identified or noticed was that there's 42 evidence-based practices. And then Dr. Berkowitz took those practices and then conceptualized them into 6 design principles to help make it more manageable and memorable. One of the reviews that he did was the 11 principles framework. So you'll see a lot of similarities of the 11 principles and those practices woven throughout the 6 design principles. So that's kind of the overlap, and that's where those two are connected. I took some time to connect some of the dots for you. And in the left column, you'll notice that we have the design principles on the left column. The center column are those implementation strategies. And then what I did is I went ahead and looked at the 11 principles capsule. We have that linked in the online binder. And if I can maybe have Julie or one of our other coaches, if it hasn't in there, if it's not in there already, if you can put a link to our online binder, this presentation's in there, as well as a couple resources that we're going to be using for this activity coming up. So again, on the next 2 slides, I've connected the dots. Again, the implementation strategy, and then I line that with the 11 principles. So you'll notice these on these 3 slides here. So the 2 resources they're going to need in the online binder, and I'll share these with you in just a minute. The first is the primed and the 11 principles framework handout. And then the second one is the 11 principles capsule summary sheet, which has all of the principles broken down from principle 1.1, 1.2, 1.3 across the top. And then as you go down on that document, we have the rest of the principles. I'll share that with you as well in just a second. The first document is going to be a working document. So all of you are going to have editing rights to it. And so this is where we're going to capture resources, and you're going to use this to identify some of your strengths. So this is the activity we're going to do. The first thing you're going to do in your teams, we're going to keep you in your teams this morning, is you're going to assign a note taker, a timekeeper, and a spokesperson. Then what you're going to do as a team, you're going to take a few minutes to identify which of the primed design principles you see as a strength at your school organization. And I did take the liberty of separating some of them out. Some of the design principles are a little bit bigger and contain more content, but you're going to pick one of these, A through G, that you see as a strength at your school organization. And then on the shared document, which I'm going to pull up here in just a second, you're going to write a specific example from your school, an idea that you see as a strength that would align to that primed principle. Then if you have resources, we want you to hyperlink those resources on that document. Again, I'm going to show you some examples here in just a minute. And then if you have time, you can go ahead and see if you can align your strength, your primed design principle strength with one of the 11 principles. And again, I'll show you an example in just a second. That's going to take about 24 minutes. We want to leave you enough time to do that, but we also want to leave enough time for each group then to share out their strengths. So take some time to celebrate, and then also share with us an idea and or some resources that align to that design principle. So let me show you an example. This is the document you're going to be working from. On the left column, we have the design principles. And the first example under rhetoric, the first implementation strategy from the primed framework is core values, shared goals, and common language. And so what we want you to do is link your school so we know where the resource came from. So in this case, what I did is I included Meyer Middle School 9 character traits poster, and I linked that in here. So this will come up hopefully in a second. You can see this. This is just simply our poster and magnets that we have. The posters are hung up in all of our classrooms, and we have magnets that we send home to the families. So that would fall under the category of core values, shared goals, common language. And then what I did is in red here, I aligned that to principle, would fall under principle 1.1. So the link here, the 11 principles link, if you click on that document, it's going to ask you to make a copy. And then this is what that document looks like. You're not going to write anything on this document. You're just going to use this as a reference to align your 11 principles to the primed strength that you identified. Another example that would fall under the category of core values, shared goals, and common language is our mission statement, envision collective commitment. So I linked that in here as well. A third example I used is our mission posters that we created, and you should have access to that as well. That would be aligned to principle 1.3. So what you would do then, I just use this as an example. I'm using Woodlands as an example. Woodlands, I know you have a kind of a tree concept for your mission and vision. You would link that in here, and maybe just note that it's on your website. It's posted in classrooms in the hallways, and that would probably align to principle 1.3. I'll give you a couple more examples. Under resources, leadership allocation of resources to character education. One example is our class sizes were getting quite large. We knew we wanted to teach an SEL course, so we hired a third counselor, and so we're dedicating money towards that. And that's a 7.5-week course that they teach. And I linked a presentation that we made to the school board. And then in red, you'll see here that would align to principle 8.3 and 2.1. A real simple, easy example under investing in PD would be the fact that your school organization is dedicating money to attend LACCS. That would apply to 8.2. For us specifically in River Falls, as I mentioned, we committed ESSER funds to pay for Character Strong. I linked the Character Strong in there as well, and that would align to 8.2. You don't have to, if you don't have a resource to link, that's fine. If you just have an idea that you'd like to share with the group. So this is going to be one large working document. And hopefully when we end here today, you're going to walk away with some really good resources that you can consider back at your school organization. I have other examples listed on here as well. So with that, are there any questions before we jump in? We want to spend about 24 minutes on this. You're going to be in your teams, and then we want to dedicate another 24 minutes for you to share out. Are there any questions regarding this process? All right, with that, we'll put you into your groups, and we'll see you back here in about 24 minutes. Welcome back, everybody. Hope you found that productive. It's been kind of fun to watch the documents that are being and resources that are being added to this document. So hopefully you walk away today with more tools in your toolbox. And what we want to do is give each team 2 minutes to share their resource. So if you can let me know which of the prime principles you saw as a strength, I'll find the document and I'll be able to open it up on my screen so people can look at it and you can talk about it. So we're going to start with team 1, which is Alverno College. So if we have a spokesperson for them, let me know the strength.
I'm not going to be speaking on our behalf. My colleague Baisha is, but I just want to say I need to upload our documents. So can you circle back to us, please?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Let me know. Yeah, we'll put you at the very end. Okay. Put you at 13. Thank you. All right. Blessed Sacrament.
I think they're joining us later today, Mark.
Okay, all right. DLH Academy, I know that you're having some technical issues with your screen. Are you ready to share or not yet?
Mark, I think they said not yet.
Okay, perfect. All right. Eastbrook Academy. And I do believe we have one participant that's not on mute right now. I can hear some background noise. So double check to make sure everybody's muted. Eastbrook
All right, can
Academy.
you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So we did not link anything to show as of yet. I can still speak, but if you would like something linked, I will have to like wait a little bit.
No, we weren't. Yeah, if you didn't have anything linked, but you want to share an idea, let's do that.
Okay, let me go down to where we were. I'm sorry. So we were with, what page was it on? Okay, with the intrinsic motivation.
Okay, that's a tough one.
I think that is slide number, I'm sorry, for anybody else trying to look with us, that is slide number, I think 10.
Yep.
Yes. And so we put for challenging and meaningful, relevant curriculum. We emphasize whole child development and are continually improving our curriculum to be responsive to our students. We reflect a lot as to what is relevant for them and not just teaching to a test, but making sure that they're developed spirit, soul, and their body. And that's one thing that we are very, very strong with. Also going on to revising one's work. We give our teachers a chance to get more coaching. We have them go to PDs. Often we actually stop and have a day of just teachers getting built stronger. We implement curriculum and instructional coaches to our teachers to give them that extra support. Our principals and our executive directors go in often just to, not just to kind of like observe the teachers, but just to give them that extra support that they may need without making them feel pressure as to they're being watched, but more of there being an extra hand for them. We developed a rubric for teacher growth on the living curriculum teacher development model. Principals are observing and providing feedback to teachers. Lower school teachers are also observing each other. And every Thursday there's a meeting for lower school, middle school, and high school. So they have that time to bounce things off of each other. For our students right now, we actually have some community service projects going on for our global citizen and community service. There's actually a class in our middle school that is focused on community service. We recently did with 5th grade, or mostly lower school, with 5th grade 1, there was a competition for boxes of love for Thanksgiving holiday, where we was able to help and partner with Eastbrook Church, I'm sorry, and we gave them 105 boxes of food for Thanksgiving for the Milwaukee community. And then currently we're doing a sock drive with our student council. So there's a lot going on. We couldn't finish everything we wanted to. We had so much to type, but this is just a glimpse as to what we're doing right now.
Yeah, that's great, Nina. Is that service learning class, is it like a 6-week class, 9-week class? Is it an actual class that you're teaching and they're actually doing some hands-on projects? What does that look like?
It's an actual class right now. My son is actually in one of the classes, 6th grade. So they're doing something to, it's year long right now. I think they're going to flip-flop it. So it's 2 6th grade classes, or 6A and 6B. So right now, 6A is in there with the teacher and they're just gonna flip-flop. But it's just getting them to understand that the world is bigger than themselves and to reach out to help someone else.
Nina, if you do have some time later today, and I did mention, if you want to put resources in here, we have all day to do this. So if you get some breaks and you want to add some documents, I would love to learn more. And I'm assuming other people, other participants here at LACCS would want, if you have resources to share about that service learning class. I'd also be curious to see this rubric for teacher growth on how you are using that as well. I love the feedback loop, and I love that you're having teachers get into other teachers' classrooms as well.
Yes.
That's some of the best PD, is just getting in the classrooms and watching other teachers teach. So great stuff. And I'm probably assuming that the spirit, soul, and body is probably part of your mission or vision work too, I'm guessing. Is that accurate?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. Thanks for sharing, Nina.
All right, thank you.
Yeah. How about Hope Christian School? Team number 5.
Yep, some similarities where we just were as far as like service learning opportunities. The one that we recently did also is just like a food drive of the competition to see who could bring in the most. The fun thing that someone had the idea of doing with that was taking kids from the classes that had the most and having them actually get on the bus and deliver the food and help hand it out when they got there. We couldn't take the entire class, but we took like 5 from each class, which was lots of fun for them. So we enjoyed that. And then I would say the other main thing that I put in there, it's kind of split into 2 spots towards the bottom with like connections to families in the community. And then towards the top as well, is because we are a Christian school, we do have that faith connection. So we work with chaplains in schools, which is super helpful with reaching out. The link in there is just to their website. But it's a chaplain that comes into the school, runs chapel, has those conversations with students, and can also connect with parents as well. And then towards the top, where everyone was doing all their different signage, along with that, we have a curriculum that we use for our Word of God classes, which ties virtues into it. So similar to what other people were posting, it just has our virtue posters of what we push throughout the day and what we teach in that Word of God class as well. So.
I'm just looking for the poster.
Yeah, it was. There you go. Right under wherever. Yep.
All right. So there's the poster.
Yep. So again, just like lots of others had, but that's just the version that we have here that we get to use.
Cool. Courage, diligence, identity, integrity, justice, and purpose. Super, super clean. I like it. I think one of the things that gets harder as you go up in grade levels is how you get more families and parents engaged in character education. So if people have ideas or resources on how to do that at the middle and high school level, I think it's sometimes a little bit easier to do at the elementary level. I'd be interested in learning from others on how you're doing that at the middle and high school level. All right, thanks for sharing. Next we have Marquise. Are you number 6 with Merrill?
Sorry, I'm here. Mark, I was working by myself, so I just did the best I could. But we did connect a link to one of the things that I'm gonna talk about. So one of the principles that we go off pretty much all the principles here at Merrill, but principle 4 was one of the things I thought I'd highlight. We do a whole lot of community outreach here at Merrill, and we also are very connected with the families here at this school. Part of the reason why I got hired in, about 3 years ago was for that reason, because I'm very connected to the community. I'm also, for those of you who don't know, I'm the city councilman of the city of Beloit. So, and I tripled the vote in this neighborhood when I actually ran, which is something that, a lot of people who ran struggle to do to get these people out the vote. Is just because of my connection to the community, which was why I was hired into the school. And we do a whole lot, like on the 14th coming up, I had worked with the city. We're actually about to do something here at Merrill to get more people connected with these housing programs here that the city, the housing programs that the city is offering to like low income communities. And we're actually doing something here at Merrill for that, to get the information out to the people so that they know about it. So not only is it a educational, obviously the school is for educational purposes, but we also use for like I say, community purposes as well. And so one of the things that I want to highlight, I'm kind of scrambling because I'm trying to get through everything. One of the house systems that we had adopted a house system called Ron Clark Academy, RCA. It's located out of Atlanta, Georgia. And what it is kind of like a fraternity, sorority kind of system. And I think some of y'all should like really look into that. It's kind of like it's called, so we say here, 4 houses, 1 Merrill. So the kids are pretty much broken up into 4 different houses. It's a Bendy, Revere, Amistad, and Altruismo. Not only are the staff as well, and then we got like honorary people that come into the school, that's connected to the school, that are involved in these houses. Me personally, I'm with Team Altruismo. And what it is basically giving, you know, not only the kids, but the staff and everybody involved like a sense of belonging. So like if any of you have ever went to college and you know about fraternities and sororities, it's kind of like that type of thing. And then we got like house points where like if kids got like good behavior or something like that, or, you know, they're being supportive of other students or things like that. It's different things that they do, and our staff members assign points to them. And what they want to do by the end of the year is have like the most points, and then we have like parties for them and whatnot, and then we have like weekly meetings as a team, as a group, and we got like t-shirts and all kinds of stuff. So like a kid just transferred here to Merrill from Las Vegas, and he was actually, the RCA system was actually in his school. So when he came here, he was already on Team Isabendi, which is the green team right here that you see. And I just think it's like really unique. And some of our staff here actually had to travel to RCA in Atlanta. We still make like monthly travels to RCA in Atlanta. So I would say to look into that. Some of y'all who was already on here, it's like a really, really big thing, a sense of belonging. And it also improves, like I say, education, makes kids want to be more engaged, to say the least. And I apologize to y'all for all the stuttering. I'm just not prepared right now. So I'm doing the best I can.
I think you covered it really well. I love the house system. I love the example you shared. I love what you said about 4 houses, 1 Merrill. It's a great way to get connected and engaged, a sense of belonging. And then I also like that you've incorporated community members to kind of adopt and work within those teams and those houses. So what a great concept. So thanks for sharing that, Marquise. Next we have Mesmer.
Hello. We felt that the thing that we were the strongest in was the caring classrooms and school culture or school climate. So under all of the climate area. And once we got in there in the framework that we have here, we realized that actually a lot of the bullet points above it also were really strong in. We didn't get to add too many documents yet because we had really great and rich conversation. But under safe environment, we have one of our APs is really detailed in emergency procedures. He was in the military for 20 plus years. And so he's really serious about making sure that we have really great procedures, and it makes our staff and our students feel super safe. We do a lot of like really engaged practice under some of our safety protocols. Along with that, for like emotional safety, we have really detailed morning meeting slides that are shared out from our administration and school counselors, and we use Character Strong for those and other resources that kind of like lean on our core values. So that's like physical safety and emotional safety there. Along with that, with the assessing school culture and climate, we have surveys that go out each term to assess our academic, emotional, and cultural feelings for middle schoolers and for staff. So then the administration will look at those and kind of make any changes necessary to kind of make sure that our teachers are feeling supported and our students are feeling like emotionally safe and that they're being supported by the academics and our social emotional curriculum as well. And then if we go down to caring classrooms and school climate, we have so many things in place here that kind of make us we cultivate a great relationship with our students, our families, everything. For example, our staff and student relationships are focused on daily in those morning meetings at lunchtime. We just have a lot of times during the day that we're really focused on that. Another example is our weekly newsletter that's given to teachers. The principal puts in a character dare from Character Strong. There's some for like administration, there's some for teachers, students, and families. And then he also puts one in with the families, and it's like a little engagement thing for them to practice with their kids at home, like at dinner time. And it's like relationship building for families as well. So we really like lead on Character Strong with that a lot. And then for Bullying Prevention Week, we do a lot of different things with that. The school counselor is very engaged in that. She also does a lot of like peer mediation with the older students that come down and help younger students for peer mediation. muffins with loved ones. So different events where family members are able to come into the school and like spend some time and do some like really uplifting activities with our students and with our teachers. Teachers and staff do lunch with students often. There's lunch bunches. We have core value and buddy experience when a like older group comes down and works with younger students. That's usually about once a month-ish. The other times, since we're a Catholic school, we do prayer service at those times. So then one of the times a month we do buddy experience. And then our field days too. And those also aligned with 4.1 and 4.3. And then for the assessing school culture, it was 4.2.
Awesome. Great stuff going on at Mesmer. Thanks, Alyssa. Hey, if you get a chance, I know like safety protocols are so critically important. If you have like a document that you're willing or able to share, that'd be great. The newsletter, if you have just a sample of what that looks like for other people to maybe take a look at and maybe apply to their school, I think that would be great as well. And then you mentioned the survey. I'm always looking at new surveys, and measuring characters is sometimes tricky to do. But if you have some of those surveys for the emotional culture, those types of things that the principal sends out, if you could link those questions in there, that'd be super helpful as well. So thanks for sharing all of that.
Yep, we'll do.
All right. Royals mentoring is next.
I don't think they've joined us yet today.
Okay. All right, we'll go on to St. Croix Prep.
All right, so Rita and I are gonna split this, but for now, I'm just gonna talk about something I started this year with intrinsic motivation is when a student is, so that's page 9. If a student is sent to the office for a variety of different things, we take an approach of having them really reflect on what happened, what character trait was missing in that process, how did it impact others, and how can they move forward. And that's something that what we find is that's a really good conversation to have with the student and the parent and the teachers on why the thing happened and what we can do to make sure that doesn't happen next time. And then that's building in the character traits as well. So while we talk about those things, it's just making it more real for the students. And then another thing that we are building off of is over the last couple of years, I had middle schoolers rotate their 4th hour class to clean up lunch. This is page 3, prioritizing climate. And some of them had to learn how to use a broom. Some of them had to figure out how to just pick up trash, and the realization that there was a lot of garbage that was happening. And if everybody just picked up their own trash, then it wouldn't be so messy. We still haven't learned that fully, but upper school also took that on, and they also started working on creating different things this is something that Rita's leadership group, right, created. And so they also started working on creating videos and, food sorting. And we have like a local farmer that we pair and give our food to. So it's just helping create some community and responsibility for space.
That's great. Hey, Amy, if you get a chance later today, could you share that reflective form that you use with students? That'd be really great. Yeah. I was reading, if you have, again, some of this is based on the Prime book, but there's a lot of concrete ideas in here. And, we often will give kids we want a pound of flesh, we want a detention, we want in-school suspension, but it's those reflective opportunities that I think actually lead to changing students' behavior. So I appreciate you sharing that. If you have a form that you use, that would be great. Rita, did you want to go next?
Yeah. Okay, got it. So because the middle school was doing such a great job with cleanup, and we had a mess and lots of things in our pig food that was garbage and whatnot, we, as a staff, Mark came and spoke to our K-12 group, and as an upper school staff, somebody was like, hey, we should do what the middle school is doing and do lunch cleanup, because a lot of lunchroom supervisors felt like our upper school kids are not really respectful in the lunchroom. They throw food, blah, blah, blah. And so that was our solution. And we came up with solidifying the cleanup a little bit. And it was interesting because I had the first week of cleanup. We also put the assignments in there. So it's just really simple. Every 5th period is right after lunch. We assigned someone or class to do it. And so the Friday before, they go through and talk about the responsibilities so they more quickly get to it. Because I realized when we went down there, kids didn't really have a system. And so just by going through the slides the Friday before, they knew what they were going to do. They went in and got it done much more quickly. So we have little mops that they can mop off the table with. And the first comments I heard was, well, like, isn't this somebody's job? Like, is somebody supposed to do this? And then some kids were like, this is so gross. I'm like, yeah, wouldn't it be great if everybody just cleaned up after themselves? And so by the end of the week, that group is great. So hopefully by the end of the semester, every kid in our upper school has been through the cleanup. And our hope is that they'll start just picking up after themselves rather than leaving their Dorito bag on the table or whatever it is. So lunchroom cleanup is going well. The other thing that we had under relationship on page 6 was our buddy system. So we're a K-12 building, and so we have a unique opportunity to partner our upper school with lower school kids. We're working on how to fit our middle schoolers into that and maybe partnering with some classes and middle school as we move forward. But right now we have once a month, we meet with our 12th grade meets with 4th grade, 11th, 3rd, 10th, 2nd. First is with 9th grade, and then about around second semester, I know our 8th graders are going to meet with kindergartners, and our hope would be that those buddies can partner as they go through and have the same buddy. And so we just do things like we play games, we build a craft, but every kid is partnered up, and we do that. We change our schedule a little bit in upper school because our lower school kids have morning meeting right away. And so we had to just shift our schedule a little bit, but I feel like it's gone really well. Our upper school kids are really excited. And our lower school teachers, we just had buddy day yesterday, and the lower school teachers were telling us, like, our kids were so excited to see their buddies today. I'm like, yeah, our kids were too. You walk down the upper school hallway and our kids are like, it's buddy day. And they were so excited. So as much as younger kids get from it, our bigger kids get a lot from that too. And one thing that we're adding soon, we are connecting with some nursing homes locally, and we're going to triple buddy at least our seniors and 4th graders right now are going to have someone in the nursing home. They made snowflakes for them yesterday, and then we started writing cards, and our seniors will finish those cards and we'll just deliver those packets. And some of them will be able to write back to us. Some of them are not quite able to do that because there's some in memory care, but just getting those messages is helpful for those older people kind of in isolation sometimes.
Awesome, Marie. Thanks for sharing. If you have any resources for the buddy groups, that would be great if you could link that in there. Future Kane, who worked at Brown Deer, they had a good buddy system, I think, where their upper kids were teaching character lessons to their younger kids. She's going to be joining us this afternoon when we did our coaching sessions with you. So stay tuned for that. The last thing, I read a quote this morning from Tony Dungy, former football coach, said something about integrity isn't doing what's convenient, but doing what is right, or doing the right thing. And he talked about a story. This quarterback just made a bad play. They followed him to the bench, drank a cup of water or Gatorade, and he threw it, and he missed the basket. And the quarterback who had just made a bad play, he went over, went to the ground and picked up the garbage and threw it away. Just a real simple example of not doing what's convenient, but doing what's right. So I appreciate you sharing that. Yeah.
We've got St. Croix Prep Lower School here too. Sorry, we're in 3 different places.
That's right. Yep, go ahead.
So lower school now K4. The 2 principals that we feel like we are really a strength with are 1 and 2. And all of our documents are linked in your documents, so you can pull them up as needed. But we've got posters that we have visible throughout the school, around the bathrooms area, sink area. We do have an interactive bulletin board outside our lower school office that each month with our new character traits classes discuss during their morning meetings. They add to it. They talk about the character trait, what that looks like at school, in their community, at home. And they actually help add to the bulletin board, so it makes it more personable to them also. And then they can identify and see what their classmates or other grade levels have added to. The older students complete monthly projects with character in media. So their job is to find something in the media and then bring it into the school. Oh yeah, there's our monthly bulletin board from last month. There it is. Yeah. So each grade level, each class did a feather of the turkey, what citizenship looks like for us here for our school and at home and in the community. So that's a new one's going up for the month of December. Where am I at? The monthly homework assignments. That's for 3rd and 4th grade. Those go home. They do them each month. They find something in the media. It's not something they create, but they're out there searching for that good character that they can bring in that they have found out and about outside of school and bring it into the building for us. So our admin sends out monthly newsletters to help build that common language. And we really are pushing like what the character is for the month. Common language we use here at school and have really pushed for them to use that language at home. And then principle number 2, we have character notices for our discipline. We've got Lion Pride tickets to have incentives for kids that do well when they should be, or just kind of whatnot. So there's our character notice. We talk about the character trait that they may have missed or are not doing. If a student gets one of these, they talk about it after the class or during the class with the teacher. The student fills it out actually with the teacher, and then they bring this home, have mom or dad sign it. And then that way they are being held accountable of what that one character trait that they're missing out looks like, or how they could do better with that. If it gets to a certain point, we do go to a golden rule form where then they talk with the principal, and then the parents are definitely involved with that step. So principles 1 and 2, definitely a strength of our lower school here at Prop.
Yeah, I like the positive focus on the discipline, keeping it positive, focus on the character. Internalizing is really important for kids to be able to internalize their character. And so I really like these reflective sheets that you're using with your students. So thanks for sharing those. That's really great. All right, St. Francis.
All right, thank you, Mark. So when thinking about a lot of the strengths that we have as a school district, we've really focused on the size of our district. So we have about 1,200 students across 3 different buildings. And we have an elementary and intermediate school and a high school. So we wanted to focus on the relationship pieces. So we're down on page 7 of the things that all 3 of our schools do really well. Even though we are in different places at schools, when it comes on the path of character education, we wanted to highlight some of the things that all of us do really well. So the first thing, looking at that intentional promotion of relationships, we have a wall of inspiration at all of our schools. So each staff member, administrator, counselor, everybody has one of these profiles on each of the walls in our buildings. So you highlight a character trait or a word that exemplifies you, a favorite quote, and who said it, and like kind of a picture. It's an opportunity for students to really connect with the adults in their building in a different way. But also, you can lead. I always see students in the high school kind of looking at these profiles that have been posted, and asking them some questions. Which word's going to exemplify you, or which ones you kind of connect with? So it's been kind of a fun project to put together. We also have a check-in, check-out process at each of our schools, and again, when we look at discipline and supporting students, we're really relationship focused along those lines. So we really help them to come up with expectations that they have for themselves that kind of align with what the expectations of the building are. And then, identify some incentives or some motivation for them, and continually support them throughout the day, and even at the end of the school day when we check out with them. Another big thing that we're really doing at the high school level, the next couple of bullet points, so that connection between our upperclassmen and 9th graders, we have like an ignition team. So it's a select group of upperclassmen who are kind of leaders within our building. And what I hyperlinked in here is the Ignite Day that we have at the beginning of the school year, just full of activities and connections for those incoming classmen or freshmen to like get to know an upperclassman from day one. And then we also have ongoing activities and connection throughout the school year that happens monthly within our homeroom advisory time. Something that we're really working towards now is more intentional transitioning from our 8th grade to the high school. So having the 8th graders visiting the high school, having a family night at one of our varsity basketball games to give campus tours, and just answer questions and really connect with the parents and that. And then we've also had upperclassmen come to come to Deer Creek, our intermediate school, to kind of answer questions and showcase a lot of the things that we have as offerings with extracurricular activities, academic offerings, just to kind of build that connection and help them feel more comfortable coming into our building in the following year. And we've also had some of our high schoolers, more recently, specifically our athletes, in their football uniforms, go down to the elementary school and read children's books. And that was really cool to see kind of the organic relationship that was built between those two groups, and allow our high schoolers to see them as the mentors and the leaders that they are within our district, and help our elementary school see themselves as mariners coming up through the ranks, and things to aspire to. And then kind of looking at some of the adults that we have in our buildings and outside of our buildings. Our Willow Glen and Deer Creek, our elementary and intermediate school campuses, have really strong PTOs. And then at the high school, we have a very active music and athletic booster. So our parents are kind of at those events, engaged and active within our school communities. And we think that's really important. And then we just had our relationships with our families and communities, with St. Francis being a small community, and with many of our students coming from the communities around St. Francis. We really focus on our Facebook and social media communication. We're regularly posting things that are happening within our classrooms and even outside of our buildings. And then we're also super active in the parades and community events. We have like a St. Francis Days activity every year, National Night Out with our law enforcement, and then all of the holiday parades. We have a pretty strong presence as a school community. So with all of the 11 principles, we're really focused on number 4, that creating a caring community, and number 10, the family and community as partners for us.
Great stuff, Tim. I love the wall of inspiration. Love the 8th grade night to get the kids over to the high school. You bring food and it usually brings people in, so the pizza is probably a good idea. So awesome stuff going on at St. Francis. Thanks for sharing, Tim. All right, Walker Elementary.
So we shared a couple different things in the empowerment principle. I'm not sure what page it is. It's near the bottom. So we shared some resources for our student-led assemblies that we do. We shared some links for the assembly scripts that we share with all of our teams. We shared a link for the slides template that teams fill in as they're doing their planning with their students. We shared like what our schedule looks like for the year for just how we organize, like how we're rolling out our character traits. And then we made a copy of a team folder so you could see like how we organize it for the school. So each team is designated an assembly folder, and there's already templates for the script and the slides for each date that they are presenting their assembly and teaching about their character trait that's been assigned to them. And how this works with the classroom teachers is then it gives them planning time to work ahead and figure out, and it's like it builds into like their character learning they do in the classroom, because the kids decide, how are we going to teach this to the school? How do we define this? There's certain slides we have in there to make sure they cover, like we just added a head, hand, heart slide to make sure the kids are really reflecting on, when we're living this character trait, what does it look like? What does it feel like? What does it sound like? We just added a slide for behavior data where we share out like kid-friendly versions of the data we're getting school-wide, and the students are reflecting on it and then presenting on it, and reflecting with the assembly of like things we need to work on and how that ties to the character trait they're showing for that month. So we just tried to link as many resources we could to show you how resources we give for the teams and then how we organize all of it. And we put that for going along with Principle 1 and Principle 2. And then Morgan, did you want to share about the club resources?
Sure thing. So we also added our student clubs. That was our huge push and goal last year for student empowerment. And we had lots of teachers kind of step up and start clubs that they did have certain grades. We have kindergarten, well, K4 through 5th grade at our school. And so some were we made sure there was clubs that all ages could be a part of. Some were just for older kids, but making sure that our students feel more connected with other students and other staff members. So if you click into any of the student clubs, I just did some examples, maybe of the invite. This is the example of the language club showing out what they did during their time. They made little presentations for parents and community members to see. The garden club one is a picture of something where they worked with UWM to do a project. We are really lucky that we have a garden right next to our school that's part of the community, so we try to connect with them as well. Junior coaches I put in 2 places because I saw that there was I think it said student resolution program or something above. I can't remember which one it's part of. Junior coaches are outside on the playground with adults and they help with resolution. They go through a conflict resolution training and do an I statement. This is an actual video, so I'll stop talking if you want to play it.
Hi, my name is Matthew. I'm a junior coach from Team Diversity, and I'm in 3rd grade. We are junior coaches, and I'm Hunter, and I'm in 3rd grade, and I'm in Team Diversity. Hi, my name is Olivia. I'm in 3rd grade, and I'm in Team Integrity. Hi, my name is Lauren, and I'm in 3rd grade, and I'm in Team Integrity. Hi, my name is Eliza. I'm in Team Diversity, and I'm in 3rd grade. Hi, my name is Caitlin. I'm in 3rd grade and I'm also on Team Integrity. Hi, my name is Morgan. I'm in 3rd grade and I'm in Team Diversity. Hi, my name is Autumn and I'm in 3rd grade and Team Diversity. Hi, my name is Owen. I'm in 3rd grade and in Team Diversity. My name is Elijah. I'm in Team Integrity. I'm 8 years old and in 3rd grade. And I'm junior coach. Come to your classroom to see what games you would like to play. We'll be setting up games by the old kickball field. If you please join. Look there, that's
That's awesome.
So that was our promotional video that the kids made to try to get other students more involved in structure play on the playground. And then after they did the conflict resolution strategy training, they then also tried to help out with I feel statements on the playground.
That's amazing. I love that. I mean, it falls perfectly under empowerment, empowering kids to take leadership roles, conflict resolution. It's amazing. Thanks for sharing all those resources, Kristen and Morgan. That's awesome. All right, just have a couple more. I know we're running over. We'll make sure you get a break here real quick. Next we have Woodlands.
Hello, I apologize. The camera's not working, but at least the microphone is. I'm going to make it short and sweet. We have a lot of different things that we put in here, but we focused on prioritization the first couple pages because we have a lot of things already put into our infrastructure. that lend themselves toward character education. So first things first, we've got our own touchstone that lists off all of our principles. It's I will be, at all times, I will be respectful to myself and others, responsible for my choices and actions, worthy of trust, creative in my thinking and expressions, fair and caring to all, a good citizen of the Woodlands community. That's posted in every single classroom, including the specialists rooms, and it gets recited at least at the Blue Mound campus at least once a week in the mornings to remind everyone what we're about and who we are as human beings. This year, our school theme is Woodlands Way Every Day, and we've been focusing on specifically respect, responsibility, and care in our school. So we have lots of posters and a matrix that we made for our school that gives common language around our expectations with those values. And it's really helped whenever we have someone who is handling a situation with students that aren't in their grade level. We still have that common language to be able to use, and it just keeps consistency for our students and ourselves. Other prioritization things, we have been able to have a pretty large LACCS team last year and this year, so we've been able to dedicate the time and the money to make that happen. Being able to have Character Strong as well as a resource this year, which has been fantastic. As we were saying before, we really like it as a system. The kids are really liking it. They're engaging with it. And then all the way down on one of the last pages for developmental pedagogy, we had a couple of things thrown in there. Our biggest strength, or one of our biggest strengths, is that for years and years, we've had a system called Little Families, where every single, well, just about every teacher in the school has a little family, which is made up of 10 to 12 students from 1st grade through 8th grade. I think it's the last sentence in this big paragraph. Each staff member leads a little family, a multi-age group of students who meet once each month to learn about values, mentor each other, and embrace multiple perspectives of teaching and learning. So a lot like, I think it was St. Croix had a worksheet that had every month themed to a different value. We've got the same system. So talking about responsibility one month, talking about respect, and being able to create those relationships between multiple grade levels and with a different teacher in the school that you might not be seeing every day as a student. The other thing that we threw in there under high expectations and focus on excellence, for our 8th graders, we have a portfolio that every student has that they start in kinder, and add an artifact of their work every year to, so that in 8th grade, their last year with us, they can look over it and reflect on their time at Woodlands. And then they conduct an interview to talk about their growth and their strengths and where they've come from and where they're going now as they go into high school, to maintain that character ed and maintain it as a focus and something that was just as important as their academics as they've gone through our school. Those are the things I'll highlight. We have a lot more resources that we've thrown in and more that we'll probably add, but those are our strengths, absolutely.
Great job, Kat. And yeah, please do so. Please add more. I'd love to see a sample of the portfolio. If you have a student sample you can share, and anything else you want to add. Great work at Woodlands. All right, we're gonna wrap up with Alverno. We're still gonna give you a 15-minute break here. We're gonna wrap up with Alverno before we do that.
Okay, I believe my colleagues each had something come up, and I was the timekeeper. So you're getting this from the timekeeper who made sure she kept time and not notes, or was the spokesperson. At any rate, we looked through all of the primed and identified developmental pedagogy as the strength for which we could produce evidence, looking at our 8 abilities. And when we thought about the 8 abilities and the core values, aligning 5 and 6 specifically, you'll see our 8-page, we call it our 8-page cheater for the descriptions of the 8 abilities through the 4 levels, something that we provide for those who are beginning to understand how we apply the abilities in our curriculum. And then so when we looked at, we have 5 and 6. I'll go the other way. She has 6 first, but 5 opportunities for moral action, particularly service learning, aligns with the description and the activities of development students experience in the valuing and decision making. And then the core value 6, meaningful challenges, academic curriculum that respects all, develops character, and helps them succeed. We had a lot of conversation around this, and specifically initially came up with our self-assessments. Our students are in all classes providing an opportunity to give themselves feedback on their progress, what they know and how they apply it. So what you're doing and how do you demonstrate that you know what you're doing through that self-assessment and reflection, as well as global perspective, which is another one of our ability measurements. And then we started thinking more and looking across at some of the items as it relates to number 6, and discovered that we have more of our 8 abilities that reflect in there: effective citizenship and social interaction. And there was more discussion that took place among all of us, but unfortunately, as I said, my job was timekeeper, and I held true to my job. And so I'm giving a real cursory overview of what we discussed in terms of of our strength in developmental pedagogy, specifically at curricular integration. And since I'm bringing up the rear, that's it. I guess I won't take a lot of time because I probably need a break.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Shea. It's been a long morning. Great sharing out again throughout the rest of the morning. If you have other resources this afternoon you want to add to this document, you should all feel really proud of the work you're doing. This is an amazing document. Hopefully you can use these to add tools to your toolbox. We're going to take 15 minutes. Let's come back at 10:35, and then we'll start the next phase of our December LACCS session. So take a well-deserved break. All right, welcome back, everybody. Apologize for running about 19 minutes over. I felt like we had pretty good momentum. I want to make sure we had everybody had a chance to share the great work that you're doing back at your schools. I would also encourage you to take some time to, if there's a resource or an idea that you want to learn more about, go ahead and private chat each other. The school's number is next to their name, and so you can reach out to them that way and ask questions and exchange contact information. Again, I love going to workshops and different sessions where I can walk away with some really concrete ideas. So hopefully you found that valuable. All right, so for the next until noon, I want to share with you my experiences leading character education in the school district of River Falls. But I also want to share with you the experiences of 8 principals, middle school principals that also have led National Schools of Character. And I did this through my dissertation work at Bethel University. And what I wanted to find out is, what did that change process look like at those schools? What was the role of the principal at those schools? And then the third question was, how did those principals engage their staff in that change process? We will be breaking this up through noon, but there's going to be 5 different sessions where you're going to have a chance to reflect with your teams based on some of these keys to leading schools of character. So plan on that. Again, I'll speak and talk for a little bit, and then you're going to get 7 minutes to reflect with your team, and then I'm going to present some more information. You're going to have time to reflect, and that'll take us right up until noon. If you need to put yourself, turn off your video and stand up and stretch, walk around, feel free to do so. That's not a problem. All right, so main objectives for this rest of this morning then is I'm hoping that you'll walk away with really the keys to drive the character education change process and help build momentum in your school organization. I'm going to share with you the actions of principals who have led National Schools of Character. I'm going to take some time to share some of our experiences in the school district of River Falls, make some connections to change theory. And as I mentioned, I want to provide opportunities for you and your teams to reflect on some of the keys to this change and help build momentum. First thing, kind of Captain Obvious here, we know that change is hard. Failure rates range anywhere from 33 to as high as 80%. That's crazy to think about that. What I found, a couple things I found interesting, and this is not surprising, this first part, but often there's low success rates because of resistance to change by employees. We know that. But the one thing that we often blame the employees for the resistance, but as leaders, we're often the ones to blame for that resistance. And often that resistance can be compounded by either the actions or inactions of principals and leaders who don't really fully understand the key elements of the change process. So leading change is one of the greatest challenges facing organizations, but knowing how to successfully lead that change really needs to be a core competency for organizational leaders. And the one thing we do know is that we can learn a lot by looking at other schools, other principals who have led change successfully, and share ideas and resources that will increase our chances of a successful change process. Shortly after my dissertation, I read a book. If you haven't had a chance to read this book, this is an outstanding book on transformational leadership by Anthony Muhammad and Luis Cruz. And this was kind of an eye-opener for me as well. They talked about two types of resistance, or two types of resistance to change. One is rational resistance to change, and the other is irrational resistance to change. As school leaders, we can expect a rational resistance to change if we've not taken the time and dedicated the time to explaining why. Why is the change happening? So if I'm not explaining the why and communicated that rationale, I could expect rational resistance. If I have staff members who don't trust me as a leader, they don't trust my character. If you've worked for leaders who have overpromised and underdelivered, often that leads to a lack of trust because of that lack of follow through. It could be that they don't trust you and don't see you as a competent leader. And if those are the cases, we could expect rational resistance from our employees and from our staff. And then the final one is if we have not invested the functional investment, the how-to, the PD, we could expect rational resistance. I'll give you an example. So this past school year, last year, we started to migrate to standards-based grading. We're looking at the work of Marzano. We asked our staff to identify power standards last year and start working on what we call proficiency scales. And our goal or hope was that they would have 3 to 5 proficiency scales done. This fall, when I opened up the folders of some of our teams, there was a couple of staff members that didn't have anything in their folders. My initial reaction was really, I was frustrated that they didn't have any of this work done. They had their power standards identified, but they didn't have any proficiency skills done. And then I reflected back on this work of Anthony Muhammad and Luis Cruz, and I thought, well, did I give them all the resources that they needed? And looking back on it, one was a tech ed teacher. I didn't give them any concrete examples on how to write a proficiency scale for tech ed. So we sat down together this fall and we did a rough draft, and then the teacher went ahead and finished up the proficiency scale. I didn't invest functionally into how to do the proficiency scale for that teacher. And again, I could expect that rational resistance. Now, if I've explained the why, if I have the trust of my staff, if I've developed the functional capacity to do the work, and teachers are still resisting, at that point, it becomes irrational resistance. And Anthony Muhammad and Luis Cruz would say, all right, there needs to be some sort of action to taken at that point, something we call courageous conversations. So I thought that was kind of interesting connection with some of this work around the change process. The research behind the change and successful change, there's a lot of similarities. And I think it's interesting that these similarities can be found way back to 1953. And as recent as when I was doing my dissertation with some of the work of Cotter in 2014. One of the main similarities of successful change is the importance of engaging staff in the change process. And you can do this through a number of different ways. The research would say that you can engage staff in helping you identify a sense of urgency or the need to change. Your staff can help you establishing clear vision and goals, establishing quick wins, and removing barriers. Cotter does a nice job explaining this with his 6 common errors of leading change. And the first is not establishing a great enough sense of urgency. And that's the why. We talked about that with Muhammad and Cruz just a minute ago. The second one is not creating a powerful enough guiding coalition. And one thing I found out when I was doing my research is that some principals referred to feeding the eagles. So they would bring the people that they knew they were going to be supporting the change of the character work that they were doing at their school. But there's also several of the principals that are interviewed that brought the naysayers on board to make sure that they had a voice and understood the why behind the work and getting them engaged in the how of the work. So I thought that was interesting. A third common error is lacking vision. And the analogy that I like to use here is if you've ever been lost, either in a big city that's unfamiliar, if you're traveling across country and you get lost, or if you're up in the North Woods, down on some back roads, nothing looks familiar to you. You start to get anxious. You start to get worried. And I see this very similar with any type of a change process. When we lack a vision and we don't know where we're going, there's going to be anxiety associated with that. And that leads into really that fourth common error is it's one thing to have a vision. It's another thing to make sure that we're communicating that often. And Cotter points out that one of the errors is that a lot of leaders under communicate that vision by a factor of 10. And then the last two is last two errors of leading change, not moving obstacles to the new vision. Oftentimes this is time. Sometimes this is the PD or the how to. Sometimes it's a start doing list and a stop doing list that you need to go through with your staff. And then the last error is not systematically planning for and creating short-term wins. If you start this work, and I don't care what the change is, but you got to be able to demonstrate early on that your efforts are making a difference. So those short-term wins help build momentum. I'm going to stop with that, and I'm going to break you into your groups. And this is the first reflection. And that is, what barriers, challenges, and or resistance, if any, are you experiencing in your character education journey? And if you are experiencing resistance, do you see it as rational resistance or irrational resistance? So we'll bring you back in 7 minutes. We'll start the next session with questions. What are you curious about? Based on this reflection questions, I'll be able to respond to some of those questions before we get into the keys to building momentum around the change process with character education. So take 7 minutes and reflect on these questions with your team.
Everyone's back.
Awesome. All right. Welcome back, everybody. We'll get some productive conversations. The one thing I should have mentioned before we left is if you still need more time to reflect on these questions, this afternoon might be a good time, or maybe at an upcoming team meeting or a committee meeting. But these are really good questions to reflect on. Before we move on, anything that came out of your group that you're curious about, any questions that you might have, anything you want to share?
Mark, I guess I'll share something.
All right, go ahead, Marquise.
I don't want to get specifically into detail, but if we talking about like the challenges at our schools, right?
Yep.
So one thing that I would see being a challenge is when I think people should always reflect on the chemistry that they building in the schools with like the staff or the parents and whatnot. And I think people should like really think and like I said, reflect on how they're being perceived by the people that they're dealing with. Because some challenges that I believe, not that it's not really many challenges. Like Ronette been here at Merrill before. She thinks it's very, she could tell you herself, like we very like almost family oriented in the school. But sometimes just in general, you'll have some individuals that needs to do like a self-reflection on how they're being perceived by their co-workers and the community or the parents as a whole, because like you don't never want to be that one person that's like, causing chemistry issues or having people like dividing people and like, you know what I mean? Like just, it's like you always involved in like some kind of situation, whether it's drama or gossip or something like that, So like I think some people should always like be open to listening to others and understanding like if you hear one negative thing about yourself, whether it's negative or positive, like if you hear these things from more than like one or two people, like you might want to start doing some soul searching and seeing what it is that you can either change or maintain the behaviors or the characteristics that you're displaying to the people that you're dealing with. Because the way I look at it is that like if it's somebody that I'm working with or somebody I'm in the just in general, and they're coming and telling me things about myself that might be negative, and I'm hearing this from multiple people, then I'm, like I say, I'm gonna look at it and try to do what I can to change that, because I don't want to be that one person that people are, that's just disturbing, you know, progress. And I think some people just don't think about stuff like that, you know. So I believe just in general, that's just something like that would be a challenge. That some people don't always want to admit if they're wrong, but sometimes I think we do got to accept when we are wrong, or when people are coming and telling us things, and not be too like stubborn or whatever to like really admit it.
Yeah, you bring up some really good points, Marquise, and you talk about family. And I think with any close-knit family, you're going to have conflict, right? And sometimes there's going to be people not having good days, but if it's habitual and it's becoming a problem, it becomes tricky, because you know, you really have to have a trusting relationship with that person to give them feedback. And so I think that can get tricky sometimes. The other thing I would just mention is, you know, Principle 8 says we need to start with ourselves. And we need to check ourselves. If we're not modeling character, and that's, you know, Berkowitz says it, and Thomas Lacona says it, the best teacher of character is our own character. And I think that's where we need to start, by looking at ourselves. I think you're absolutely right. Part of that takes vulnerability. Part of that takes humility. And sometimes it takes courageous conversations to have with those people, if it's done with integrity, right? You know, if you're seeing concerns with the staff, and I like what, you know, Future often talks about, you know, two glows and a grow, right? So always start off with that sandwich of, you know, hey, here's two things I think you're doing really well, but here's one thing I'm noticing right now. Again, those are hard conversations to have, but there's a way to do it with integrity. So again, character starts with us. It starts with Principle 8, and I think you're right. We all need to be modeling that, and when we're not, I think, you know, we have to be open to that feedback. So thanks for sharing that, Marquise. Anybody else? Sorry about that, I was muted. We're going to jump in to the next few slides. And what I want to share with you are really the keys to building momentum and changing mindsets around character education. And this was a theme that came out of my dissertation that I did not ask any questions about. But what I heard from the principals that I interviewed, I heard things like, once we started to do this, we started to get buy-in. Once we started to do this at our school, it really lit a fire. Once we started to do this, things started to snowball. Once we started to do this, we built momentum. Once we started to do this, we brought people over. Once we started to do this, this became a movement. And again, this was not a question that I asked, but it just came out in my interviews that I thought were really interesting. And I want to share with you those what were those things that led to that momentum and helped change those mindsets. And the first, opportunities for teacher voice and leadership was really at the center and at the heart of what those principals were saying. The second one is the creating of their mission, vision, goals, common values, common language, common expectations, help build that momentum and change mindsets. PD helped with that as well, sending staff members to conferences, visiting model schools, was part of that momentum building. And then the last one is the use of data to measure growth and planning for short-term wins, which we've talked about earlier with some of the research on change theory. This is a kind of a conceptual framework for my dissertation. So this was the results of my dissertation all on one slide. And I'm a mountain biker, so this is a big chain ring. And you'll notice at the heart of this, when we talked about teacher voice, the principals of the schools that I interviewed that led National Schools of Character provided that space for voice and leadership in a culture of trust. That's really at the heart of it. And that's really the first key to changing mindsets and building momentum, is that teacher voice. The other three I just mentioned was having that common language, developing a common mission and vision, use of data to demonstrate growth, and then that PD component. So those are some of the keys to driving those schools to become National Schools of Character. More specifically, when I interviewed the principals, where did they have voice? They had voice in creating the school mission, vision, values, and goals. They helped the principal identify the rationale or the need for character education in the school. They helped identify and remove obstacles, and they helped identify short-term wins. Again, conceptually, that culture of trust at the center. Staff helped create those common mission and language and vision. When I interviewed principals, the rationale for the change was different, just probably like it's different with the schools that are participating in LACCS. Some principals identified the rationale was that there's academic concerns. Some were behavioral concerns. 2 of the schools I interviewed would be considered turnaround schools. Low staff morale was a rationale for character education. Social emotional learning and student leadership were the other rationales for these schools to engage in character education. Short-term wins varied, but the staff had a huge role in identifying what those short-term wins were going to be, and they used data to measure that growth, and those short-term wins varied. And then removing of obstacles. This was a key thing that we identified in some of that change theory. But leaders within the school had a voice in this process, but typically they identified time, scheduling, and then resistance or changing mindsets as some of those obstacles they had to remove if they wanted to get that momentum going. So we just talked about the connections of principals leading national schools of character around teacher voice and leadership. Specific to Meyer Middle School in our district, this is pretty interesting that this idea of character education came from one voice. It came from one voice in a subcommittee of our strategic plan back in 2009. So voice does matter. The second strength for us is that we have really strong committees at each of our buildings, character committees. They're the most participated, well-attended committees. So that shared leadership is really important. You've heard me talk about our district level where we have at least 2 reps from every building that meet once a month. And we talk about character. We've been doing this, in fact, since 2010. It's really helped continue that momentum and made it sustainable. And then the last part is how we use team time and faculty meetings for voice. And I'm going to share a concept with you in just a minute around that. I want to connect this to Prime. This would be under empowerment, more specifically shared leadership, culture of empowerment, collaboration. The connection to 11 principles would be shared moral leadership. And then a connection to research is the importance of engaging staff in that change process. So just connecting some of those dots. This was interesting research that I had stumbled across when I was doing my dissertation, some work by Russell Qualier. I thought this was really powerful. Pretty big study of 8,000 staff members between 2010 and 2014. Teachers who said they had a voice in decision-making at school were 3 to 4 times more likely to work hard to reach their goals, believe they can make a difference in the world, and be excited about their future in education. So we're talking about job satisfaction. We're talking about teacher efficacy. If you look at Hattie's work, collective teacher efficacy is one of the highest effect sizes. And then the second part to this is that staff who saw themselves as leaders were 7 times more likely to believe they can make a difference in the world. Again, that goes back to that idea of teacher efficacy. So some powerful research there. So implication for leaders, it's really important to create a culture of open communication and trust. Organizations can really benefit from leaders who demonstrate vulnerability. One of the first books that I read in my doctoral work at Bethel University was this book called Ascent of a Leader. They described a ladder, and the first rung of the ladder was vulnerability. And that's a really important character trait in any leader. And then the second thing is the importance of having a feedback loop. How are you communicating with your staff? And I would say my second year as principal at Meyer Middle School, I sent out my survey. I got the survey back, and I was really disappointed to see that I wasn't communicating well enough in the eyes of a lot of our staff members. I wasn't communicating enough, and I wasn't communicating effectively. And so I made a decision to get into every team meeting. Every Wednesday we have team meetings. And I mean, since back in 2000, probably, I don't know, 11, I've been getting into 9 team meetings every Wednesday. We have a different focus every Wednesday, from culture responsive practices and character education to standards-based grading to professional learning communities. And then we have a tech Wednesday as well. But within that is, I got a chance to get in. I got to respond to questions and concerns that staff had. I was able to communicate our vision, our goals, and respond to any needs of our staff. And you've heard me reference this quote before, but clarity is the antidote to anxiety. And that's what I was experiencing those first 2 years. I wasn't clear in my communication. That was creating levels of anxiety on the staff. And so we changed that by getting into those team meetings once a week. I want to share this with you too. This came out of, we sent a group of teachers to a conference called Every Teacher Leader. They're still doing this throughout the state. But we wanted to capture what we were doing in our team time. So we created 2 documents. We call this the Plan for Continuous Improvement. And I just want to talk you through our process. And then the second slide is our Plan for Continuous Communication. So what happens is anytime we have an area for improvement, it could be identified from a committee member, a staff member, it could be from our admin team. We take that area that needs improvement and we take it either to our team leaders or to our committee. It could be our care committee, behavioral committee, our PLC committee. And we start to work on a goal to address that and a vision to address that need or that area for improvement. So that group comes up with the rough draft. I then go into team meetings and I say, here's what the team leaders came up with. This is what the committee came up with. What do you think? So we get all eyes on it. And I go from team to team to team throughout the day. We get feedback and hopefully we get consensus. If we don't get consensus, we bring it back the next month. If it gets the thumbs up, we need to provide the time and the PD and the resources to make it happen. We need to provide ongoing support. And then we need to reflect and assess at least 2 times a year. That's for some bigger things. A couple questions we ask are, do the goals match our mission, vision, and collective commitments? That's in the heart of this document. And then the last one is that, are the goals meaningful and manageable? Those are questions we need to ask ourselves anytime we take on a new goal.
Mark, can I pause you just for 1 second?
Yeah.
So I'm the chat monitor and there is kind of a comment / question in the chat. But then also I wanted to make a quick plug for Brene Brown. So many things that you're saying resonate with her work, both the importance of vulnerability and clear as kind. So I just wanted to make that note. But there's a comment in the chat that says, I'm just not sure that if the resistance is really rational and the staff do not fully trust the administration for very valid reasons, how can a teacher exact any change or help with a change when the winds are blowing in the opposite direction as far as the majority of the staff?
That's a tough question. There's a lot of group dynamics that goes into that. You know, I can empathize. I feel bad for people that are those types of situations. I would say that Marvin Berkowitz talks about how important leadership is, and that's the key, because as a leader, you can provide the PD, you can set aside the time, and if you don't have your building administrator on board, I'm just gonna be really transparent. It's difficult to get the wheels turning. I would say that one thing that Heather Sadler shared with me is our sphere of influence. If that's the case, you got to think about your own influence in your classroom. You know, you need to start there. And are there things that we're talking about that you are doing or could be doing in your classroom? And then can you branch that out even bigger? Maybe it's with your team that you work on. And then maybe you can take it and maybe take it to a committee. I'm not sure if you have a leadership team in your building, but without the support of the principal, it can be tricky. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I hope that answers the question. I know it's delicate and it's tough. Oops, I'm muted, sorry. Whoever asked that question, if you want to reach out to me just privately and we can have a conversation, maybe I can get some more specifics of what's happening in your school organization. I'll be happy to do that. So just reach out to me privately and we can talk further offline here. The second slide here is our plan for continuous communication. These are smaller things that pop up throughout the year. It could be a scheduling issue that we have coming up. So that challenge or idea is presented to a team leaders or committee again. We bring it into teams for feedback. We capture the feedback on it. I have a running document for each of my team meetings every Wednesday. I have notes in my comments. Anybody can go back and look or add comments to that document. So we either make a decision, if not, it goes back around to the teams again. And then at that point, once we get consensus, we can make a decision and implement it. So I'm going to pause here. Second reflection, we're going to give you again 7 minutes. How have you or how can you engage your staff in the character education change process? How have you provided opportunities for voice in the change process? We want to give you 7 minutes. We'll come back with any questions or comments that you have around engagement with staff and with voice.
Mark, before they go,
yeah.
How would you frame that question if you you're a teacher, because this is, you know, when you're talking about engaging your staff, are you thinking colleagues?
It could be both. I mean, this is the perspective of leaders. I understand that, but I guess, yeah, I think you're right. I think to frame it could be, how have you personally engaged in the change process, or it could be your team. It could be a committee. Yeah, or maybe it's you sharing out what your principal is or isn't doing, maybe with opportunities for voice in the change process.
Great. Thanks, Mark.
Yep. So everybody back yet or not? Oh, they're coming back. I see them now.
It just closed.
Yeah, great. All right, welcome back, everybody. First question I have before we move on. Wondering, want to get some feedback. Is 7 minutes too long? Is it too short? Do you want to shorten these up? We can do that. I want to make sure we're kind of meeting your needs. My guess is the answer may depend on how big your group is, but does anybody could do it in 5 minutes?
Mark, there's 2 comments that say too short in the comments. Either too short or just right for us. Too short is coming in. So for the comments that we have, which isn't everybody, people said 10 minutes. Another person said just right. So right now there is no vote for shortening.
All right.
Right.
Okay. Do we want to add a minute or keep it at 7? What do you think, Future?
I think majority of the people who spoke up are saying that they would like more time. So if you want to meet the needs of the people in the comments, I would say a minute more would probably be appreciated by many.
Perfect. We'll tack on a minute. Again, we want to make sure we're wrapping up by noon, and there's some things I can shorten up to as we get closer, but we want to make sure we are meeting your needs as well. This was a follow-up question that I thought was kind of interesting. I referred to this idea of feeding the Eagles, and you maybe could reflect on this later, but you know, really sending teams to LACCS does show your commitment to character ed. Do you feel like you have a strong enough guiding coalition to lead and drive the change process? That's one of the things that Cotter talked about, is that you don't have a strong enough guiding coalition. Do you have the right people on the bus? And if not, can you identify some key individuals, whether they're naysayers or could champion this work, that you would consider asking to join your committee? So something to think about. The other thing, there was a question in the chat, where did that quote, clarity is the antidote to anxiety? I cannot take credit for it. I should have cited it, and Future helped me, but I did recall that it was from a book from, last name is Schmoker. The book was called Focus. It's a great book if you get a chance to read it. But he is quoted, last name is Buckingham, was the guy that he had quoted in his book, Focus. So that's where that quote came from. All right, next, before we move on, anything that you were curious about, things that came up when you, in your little reflection session time that we had, anything you want to add or share?
Mark, I kind of want to add another thing if ain't nobody gonna speak.
Yeah, go ahead, Marquise. And I think I saw somebody else had their hand raised too. So
Let them go first. I'll go after them.
All right.
Okay, thanks. So I'm from Alverno, and we kind of talked about how this is being more like an individual purpose, and rather aligning it with any big institutional change. And I think I love hearing that the person, you know, that what we get out of it personally, and how we can even take it outside of the classroom and outside of our thinking about our job responsibilities, but just as people. So that was it.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that, Mickey. Appreciate it. Anybody else? Marquise, did you want to go?
No, I'll just leave it there.
All right, thanks, Marquise. All right, moving on to the next slide. The second key to building momentum is this idea of co-creating a common mission, vision, values, and goals. And as I mentioned, staff had a voice in this process when I interviewed principals that led National Schools of Character. The connection to primed would be prioritization, really identifying those core values, shared goals, and common language. The connection to 11 principles would be principle 1, school community promotes core ethical and promote performance values. And then for us in our school district River Falls, this is tied to our district goals. It's been a part of our 2 strategic plans now. We're in the 2nd phase of that. So we're in our 10th year. Actually, it's our 3rd phase. And then it's tied to some of our school's mission statements. And then this connection to research is that the importance of establishing a clear vision and goals is really critical in the change process. Conceptually, again, at the heart of this is that opportunities for teacher voice and a culture of trust, and staff did have voice in that process. Tying it back to the work of Muhammad and Cruz, again, this gets back to the why, really the cognitive investment in communicating the rationale for your change. For leaders, it's important that mission is co-created, that you have a clear and compelling picture for character education and it aligns to your mission, vision, values, and goals. Want to spend just a few minutes. I think these terms get muddled, and I want to just make sure that we're kind of speaking the same language. This is taken from a professional learning communities book. This is kind of the holy grail of the how-to of professional learning communities. It's a great resource for schools that are going down the path of professional learning communities, but the first 2 chapters are dedicated to establishing your mission, vision, and collective commitments and goals as an organization. And the mission is really your why. So why do you exist as an organization? It gives you fundamental purpose, and it helps clarify your priorities and sharpens your focus. The vision, which these 2 probably get confused the most, the vision is the what then. So what must your school become to accomplish your purpose? I'll share our example with our district, or Meyer Middle School specifically, here in a second. But the vision paints a compelling future and it gives you direction. Your values, also referred to as collective commitments, I prefer that term over values, because I feel like when we're collectively committed, we're all in on this. And so that's important. And that's the how. So how must we behave to achieve our vision? And that guides our behavior. And then finally, we have our goals, which is the how. So how will we mark our progress? It gives you targets and timelines, and it helps establish as priorities. So just clarify that. These documents, I know they're tough to read on your screen. I do have these in the online binder. This is from Solution Tree. These are out there that are accessible. These are reproducibles. So the first one talks about the importance of mission. The second document provides research for the importance of establishing vision within your school. And then the third document talks about why it's important to articulate your collective commitments. This was ours after a year of working on this. This was our mission statement. And we talk about how important voice is. When we first started, let's share the process that we went through. We did a coding process where we had 21 staff members that were on our PLC leadership team. And the first thing we did is I said, write out what you think the mission statement should be for Meyer Middle School. And then we collected all 21 of them. And I went ahead and color coded and I started looking for similarities. And very quickly, 3 things came to the top. And this was pretty impressive, that kind of we all thought alike. And what we thought the mission should be is that there should be something about academics, there should be something about character development, and there should be something about the well-being of our students. Then so we had these really lengthy and wordy mission statement, and somebody raised their hand, Ike Miller actually it was, and said, we need to get this short and sweet. Like we need to make this memorable. And our goal was to get this under 20 words. Because if we got stopped in the street by a parent and said, what are you all about at Meyer Middle School? If a school board member asks us, what are you all about at Meyer Middle School? We can say, listen, we're all in on the academic growth, character development, and well-being of every student every day. That's why we show up to work every day. So that's the process we went through. Putting it all together, the vision is that second statement. And so we wanted to operate as a high-performing professional learning community. We're not there yet. I can tell you that we're just in our 2nd year of becoming a professional learning community. But we wanted to do that in a caring environment where students and staff felt safe, connected, engaged. And then I highlighted 2 of our collective commitments that align to either character development or well-being. So that's what all 4 of these, or all 3 of these components of the mission, vision, and collective commitment would look like when you put it all together. All right, on to reflection 3. Participating in LACCS demonstrates character education is a priority for your leadership team. Question is character education a priority at your school organization? Do you have a clear and compelling purpose for the existence of your organization? Is character education tied to your mission, vision, collective commitments? And is your mission short and memorable? and how often are you communicating your vision, your mission and vision? You can tackle 1, 2, 3 of those questions as much as you have time for. But we're going to give you 8 minutes to reflect on this question. All right, looks like everybody's back. Any thoughts, questions you have about mission vision work? Anything you're curious about? Any ideas you want to share?
We talked a little bit about our mission and vision because right now, like, character is not reflected through it. And we're actually merging with a school that will be closing next year in our district. So they'll be joining our school community. So we talked about how revisiting that, like, as a new staff and like refreshing and coming up with a new mission and vision that does include our character might be a really great way to start off the year and like try to unite the two different school communities to come together as one.
Yeah, that's an exciting opportunity. I'm sure it's not going to come without some challenges with a lot of different opinions, but it's a great opportunity when you bring those two schools together. The one thing I would share, I didn't share this, but this idea of embedding, it's been part of our strategic plan, but I've been here for 12 years and we're finally getting to our mission where character is actually part of our mission. So I don't want to put myself up on a pedestal that I'm doing all the right things. A lot of this is hindsight that I've learned along the way, that looking back on it, I wish I would have done this my first year. But, you know, we're fortunate enough to have the support of the school board behind it, but I wish we would have incorporated this, embedded this into our mission statement early on. So thanks for sharing that, Kristen. That's exciting. All right. We're going to move on to the next key to building momentum, and that's PD, and that's why you're here. So I think this is great. When I interviewed principals, this was one of those things that they mentioned that really got the wheels turning. I mentioned like getting buy-in and lighting a fire is when they went to send staff to any type of PD opportunity. It could be sending staff to conferences or visiting model schools is what they most commonly referenced. The connection to primed would be prioritization, investing in character education PD, inter-school collaboration. The connection to the 11 principles would be 8.2, is that all staff in character education planning, training, implementation. And then for us, we've done a lot of our work. We were able to pay for a lot of our work through grants and by receiving promising practice awards from the WCEP, which is the Wisconsin Character Education Partnership. So there's funding and grants out there to pay for some of this work. So initially we sent our district committee to the state conference. We got trained in the 11 principles. And then we brought a trainer in from character.org that spoke to a larger group. And we brought in all of our building committees at that point. We must have at least 50 people in the room. And we spent 2 days getting those staff members trained on the 11 principles. And then we have onboarding with new staff that we do every fall. And I just do a brief hour presentation to get people up to speed on character education. So, and the other thing that we do every 3 years to provide PD is we do a jigsaw activity by looking at the 11 principles capsule. So we do some reflection, we do some scoring, and we do some sharing at that point as well. And then finally, the connection to research is that under transformational leadership, we talked about, sorry, I got muted again. The connection to capacity building, which is what we talked about from the onset, how important this is to provide the PD so staff know how to do the work. Implication for our leaders is that the importance of building capacities to provide ongoing PD, which is great that you're participating in LACCS. This is a huge head start for many schools and organizations. We're going to skip this reflection, but if you want to come back to it at a later time, I want to make sure that we can get wrapped up by 12 o'clock. But just something to think about is character education in your agendas at your team meetings or faculty meetings for the purpose of PD? Are there model schools in your area that you can visit? Has your organization set aside resources for character education PD? It could be time, it could be money. How are you going back and sharing what you're learning at LACCS with your entire staff? Is it at a faculty meeting? Is it during team meetings? And then the last thing to think about in this area is what is your vision for future PD around character education? So planning ahead and what does that look like? So again, we're not going to spend time on this reflection question, but if you want to go back later this afternoon, that might be a question you want to tackle. And then the last two keys to building momentum is the use of data and short-term wins. When interviewing principals that led National Schools of Character, the staff helped identify and plan for short-term wins, and they used data to show growth and progress. The connection to primed would be this idea of prioritization, assessing school culture and climate, assessment and feedback of your character education and social emotional learning. This ties to principle 11, which is assessing character of school and staff and students. And then for us, I mentioned that we intentionally apply for Promising Practice Awards to recognize our staff. It kind of a feather in the cap, and we got some momentum that way. We've sent students, staff to our character education conference. We do school perception surveys. We look at that data. We look at our youth risk behavioral assessment data. One cool thing we've done this last couple of years is our counselors do minute meetings with every one of our students. We have about 750 students, and over 2 weeks, each counselor asked our students, they pull them out the hallway, they have 4 to 5 questions, and we just get a feel for where our kids are at. You know, what are you concerned about? What are you excited about? Anything else you want us to know about? And those are they're quick meetings. I know our counselors are exhausted at the end of those 2 weeks, but we gain a lot of just anecdotal information about our students that way. And then we also have our Connect course, which is our SEL course, and we do a lot of reflections there as well. And then the connection to research is really that systematic planning for and creating short-term wins and how important that is to help build that momentum. And really, this is that return on investment. And when staff members start seeing results, we need to celebrate those things. And that is another factor for developing and building that momentum within your staff. So we want to spend 8 minutes on this question, and then we're going to wrap up with some questions that you may have at the very end. We'll leave time for that, but we're going to give you 8 minutes to tackle this one. We want you to reflect on where you're at in your organization with character education. Where are you at in your journey? And then think about where you'd like to be in 6 months, 1 year, 2 years, 3 years. And if you remember what Cotter says about the errors in change is oftentimes, 1, there isn't a vision, and 2, when there is a vision, it's not communicated enough. So how are you communicating this vision and these goals for the future of character education? And you want to think about identifying 2 short-term wins or goals for your school. So we're going to give you 8 minutes to work on that, and we're going to bring you back.
So I think everybody should be back by now. Are they all closed? Okay, I think so. All right. So while you all were in your groups chatting, we were chatting over here too. And one of the things that we were chatting about was the question that was dropped in the comments saying, hey, what happens if I don't have support from administration in your building? And we said that is a great question. And a couple of things that we as a team brainstormed was, 1, stay consistent, because sometimes this road and path and journey is lonely. It could be exhausting, especially if you feel like there is no support from the person who is supposed to be leading or is leading, and you don't know their reasons of why. It might be they have other initiatives, or they don't have time, or they are mentally exhausted. There's probably a why, but maybe it just wasn't shared with you. The other thing that we talked about and Mr. Pieper brought up is that even though that person is the leader, there are other leaders in their own regard who lead. So can you go and tap into those people? And the other thing that we talked about was, who's the sphere of influence for the people who are leading, because there is always other people. So in short, we would say tap into your other champions that are doing the same work and are passionate about it. Tap into those who are influencing. It doesn't have to be the influencers who are direct influence to the administration. It could be influencers in their own regard, because once you get enough momentum from your consistency from all the champions, then other things might happen too. So we wanted to just say thank you for that question, because now we're going to change a couple of things moving forward, because we do know that might be some of your situations right now.
Thanks, Future. And I think it would be, I can't imagine any principal or leader would say, hey, we want to start a character education committee to make our school better. I'd have a hard time seeing a principal would say no to that. And I can tell you that, and I mentioned this earlier, but our character committees we have the most participation, they're most well attended. So to Future's point, that consistency of meeting and just keeping that ball rolling is really important. So thanks for that summarizing that, Future. That's a really good feedback. All right, I'm gonna wrap up and leave a little bit of time at the end for questions if there are any. Otherwise, then we're gonna break for lunch. But I want to wrap this up with just a one-page summary of everything that beginning with your guiding coalition, right? You want to make sure that you have a strong enough guiding coalition. You want to get the right people on the bus, and you want to get that momentum going. That falls under empowerment in the primed framework. You want to engage the staff in the change process. That was clearly evident in the change research, in the change theory, and then the interviews that I did with principals. Make sure that you're painting a clear and compelling picture for character education. Know your why and what's your sense of urgency to change, or at least know your why for the change. Go ahead and co-create a mission, vision, and collective commitments, and make sure that character is in there somewhere. So is character education a priority, and is it explicit in your mission? Is the vision clearly communicated and reviewed periodically? Have you identified and removed obstacles? Have you identified and worked towards your short-term goals? Have you built capacity, which you are by attending LACCS, which is outstanding. Provide ongoing PD. You're going to use the 11 principles framework. You can use the PRIME framework. And if you have not had a chance, again, the PRIME book it's a great book study. If you're looking for a book read to do with your committee, a lot of concrete ideas in that book. That's important. Go ahead and visit some model schools. Use data to demonstrate growth and establish short-term wins. And then take the time to reflect on where you are in your character education journey. Where would you like to be in 1 year, 2 years, 3 years? Identify those two short-term goals. And with that, want to leave a few minutes here. Is there anything else that you're curious about? Questions you have around character education and the change process? It's a tough question to ask 5 minutes before lunch, I know. All right. Hearing none, if you want to privately chat me, if you have questions on the side, feel free to reach out. I'm here to help and support. I did include my contact information here. Feel free to reach me. I put my extension there. Seriously, call me anytime. I'm passionate about this work. I love doing this work, and I love helping others. So thanks. We have a whole hour now and a little bit and some change. We'll see you back here at 1. Thanks, everyone.
Mark, do you want to leave the slide up for the group ABCD groups?
Sorry, yeah, I'll leave it up.
Okay.
Forgot to mention that, sorry.
No worries. Do coaches want to come back on it 10:02 or 1:45?
Yeah. Is that what you wanted up, Julie, right? That one?
Yep.
Okay. All right. Have a good lunch, everybody.
Great.
Yeah, Mark, Future Kane, this informal leadership, I call it, there are people within an organization, within a community, a neighborhood, that people highly respect. They are not people who normally are doing a lot of talking. It's all by action, and people observe it. And they always look to that person for an opinion. And that person usually has to be asked, but everybody knows who the person is. President of a company, a vice president, every section of an organization, there are people who have credibility because of their moral disposition and the track record they have. They're powerful, and they do not speak out, but they do lead. So it's those folks that usually you find, and counseling with them is a helpful way of deciding how to go forward. And the way forward is never fast. Bamboo grows 90 feet, a year in a tropical forest. Oak trees maybe grow 1.5 feet in a tropical forest. Probably less than a foot up north. But oak trees sustain, you know, I think Mark, your own organization, your own district is a very good case study. You know, the principal believed, and not the principal, the superintendent 10 years ago that was there, believed in, he said, what is more important? But he didn't lead at all, but he allowed. And people like yourself, I don't know who, from the grassroots, he said, this is important in our school, but he didn't do anything. And you know, the people with credibility, and you probably know who they are back then, came forward. They grabbed it. It was natural. One of your school videos has this teacher with tears in her eyes, how they're going to be a national school of character. And that's on our 100+ videos. So I just wanted to make that point about the informal leader. They stick around. They have bought into the culture. I'm thinking of some people right now that I've watched for 40 years, and they come back. They're in retirement. They come back and they help. They just won't let go of these high-end values, greater good kind of thinking. That's usually where they are. Thank you for listening.
So Ronette, you want people that are joining us or just joining us to make sure that they label one of these groups that they're going to, correct?
That's exactly right.
And then we're just waiting for you to get those organized. Is there anything else we should be doing right now?
I can go ahead and open rooms, and that'll eliminate some of the people on my list. That might help. But it looks like a lot of people are heading to D. A lot of people are heading to D. Wow. All right. And also you should be going to, we're thinking the same space that you were in last time. We're not switching spaces. We're staying with the groups that you were in. So when you get to the room, you should see familiar faces. If this works out right. Oh yeah. Okay, we're almost there, everyone. I am getting a lot of people following that direction to assign their letters. I'm going to open all the rooms so you all will start to move. I don't see a letter. I will not know where to assign you. So you put a letter after your name and I will get you into your rooms.
All right, for folks who just came out of letter group A, thanks, Kristen. That was kind of the automated ending to the breakout session. So thank you for sharing your thought about burnout.
And I just wanted to say that our restorative practice group, we didn't get to close our circle. So I'm just going to invite you all just to take a moment to close for yourself and think about who you would like to facilitate a circle for, about what, so that next time we can work on doing that.
Mark, I'm just going to raise for D. There's never enough time. If anybody has any questions, just everybody has my email, or you could send me a chat here if there is something that you had a curiosity on or a question.
All right. Do we have everybody back? I'm assuming we do, right? So I think Julie wanted us to do the evaluation. So is that, let's see, is that linked somewhere? Can we put that in the chat? Does anybody have that? Is Julie there?
I'll drop it in the chat.
Oh, go ahead.
Okay, perfect. So we want you to spend about maybe a few minutes doing that if you have time right now, right, Julie? Is that the goal?
Yes.
Okay. And then I do have one request, when we split into groups, I'm not sure if either Julie, you can help me, or Rachel possibly. We have 3 groups at St. Croix Prep. So I'm wondering if we could list the lower level as 9A, the middle level as 9B, and the upper school as 9C, if that'd be possible. Because I'm gonna be jumping into different teams. That'd help me out a lot if we could do that. So Julie, they're gonna take the evaluation right now, and then are they just gonna?
And while Renette's working on our rooms, if you could just take the time to complete the evaluation, we really appreciate your feedback, and we will take that into consideration when we're planning the next session. So thank you for doing the evaluation.
Okay, so looking, participants are allowed to choose their rooms. I'm going to say the breakout rooms will close. I'm going to give you as much time as you need, so you can leave whenever you're done in those spaces. And yeah, that's about it. So the rooms are open and you can start assigning yourselves. Let's see how this goes.
This collective that they could have for each other too. And it's a simple, whoa, I like that idea. Let me just go and grab it and tweak it and maybe make it my own. But there's a lot of great things happening.
I do worry about some of the questions that I heard. I heard it twice too. I heard it from Rachel, you know, concerns about how do you get people on board. She has concerns that her organization, it's the board that's creating their mission, not their staff. And that's concerning. And I don't know if that's who asked that question about what do you do if you can't get people on board or you don't have your admin on board. And it's a tough question there. That's a tough spot to be in. I mean, again, you can using Heather's phrase, you know, we have a sphere of influence, but I don't know. I feel bad for some of those schools that want to do this work, and they probably are doing a ton of good things, but systemically, how do you get everybody on board when your admin isn't there?
I think the
Yeah, she also.
Oh, I was going to say, Katie, the opportunity is in the fact that there are so many leaders on the call and they're hearing that. Like, that's the opportunity to hear. Oh, who's talking? I'm sorry. Go ahead. I think it might have been me. It was just feedback. It was feedback. I'm like, who's talking?
You interrupted yourself.
It was me interrupting myself. Like, there's some feedback coming from somewhere. Anyway, yeah, I think, Mark, yeah, it is a tough question, but I think for the leaders on the call, just to hear how important it is and for you to address the importance of the leader and the you know, the school community still saying that. And I don't know that maybe that's a conversation that school leaders are hearing a lot anymore, their influence and the importance of it.